The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Salem Media of Hawaii.
Welcome to Generations Radio, where the focus is on our seniors and their families. We are here each Saturday afternoon from 5 until 6 p.m., bringing you resourceful information with our radio team of professionals in the field of aging. Stay with us for the next 1 hour as we explore different ways to make life more exciting and meaningful for our extraordinary seniors. Right here on AM 690 The Answer. And now, here is our host and the publisher of Generations Magazine, Percy Ihara.
And good afternoon. Welcome back to Generations Radio. I'm Percy Ihara here, the co-host with my partner here, Miss Melissa Mansfield from Ultras Medical. And welcome back to the show, Melissa.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Great weather. I was talking to a friend of mine from the mainland, and it's kind of raining over there. So I said, well, we have great weather. I'm sitting in my car, looking at the sun, looking at the beach. It's great weather. So anyway, I'm doing great. I just got my annual physical. I'm doing fine. No medication, which will be always my goal every year. Mm-hmm. I do have to lose a few pounds. If people that know me, see me, I do have to lose a few pounds, but I'm still pretty healthy. So I know you're starting to exercise now too.
I am doing 4 times a week, and
Four times a week?
Yes, 4 times.
I thought you told me last time 1 time a week.
I wish. No, it increases every year. It seems like.
Well, you look young, and so stay even younger. Anyway, so yeah, today we have a returning guest, but a very big topic, and Calvin Ihara from Manoa Cottage. Is that right, Calvin? How would you say that?
So I'm with Manoa Cottage, and we have 3 care homes in Manoa and also a skilled nursing facility called Manoa Cottage Kamiki, right behind Kamiki High School.
1 cottage and 3 care homes.
Two different locations, yep.
Okay. Anyway, for people that didn't listen to your show previously, give us a little bit of background, because I know you're from Hawaii. You grew up with Palolo, right? Kamiki, and then you moved away and got your experience, and then you came back.
Right. So, yep, local boy, grew up in right in Kamiki. That was my area, from elementary school at Wailai to Kamiki Intermediate, and then Kalani High School. So really, as the two of you were talking at first about, living aloha with the outdoors, exercise, I mean, that is Hawaii. But I ventured off, one of those that went off to college on the mainland to California, settled in the Sacramento area, and basically started with a brand new nursing home that was being built for the Asian community in Sacramento, California.
Asian community?
In the Asian community in Sacramento.
What was that one called, can I ask?
It was called Asian Community Nursing Home.
Oh, how great name.
And it was really interesting because, in my 20s, being with a startup facility that was community sponsored. Local organization out of a community center that saw a need for skilled nursing care for Asian elderly, primarily the first generation. So,
there are that many Asians in Sacramento?
Enough in the area when you look at all the different Asian ethnic groups, but many first generations at that time. In the Japanese community, we call them the Issei, so Chinese, Japanese immigrants that really, came from their country with their culture, their diet, and language, and needed to have a facility where they could live the rest of their lives with care among culture. And so, really tying in how we live every day here in Hawaii, multicultural community.
When I meet different professionals, you've been a professional, 30 years probably? So this was like in the 80s?
This is back in the 80s.
What got you into aging? I mean, I always ask that question. What made you decide to do that?
And so through my background, education was in the social services, social sciences, and community work. Been involved different ways, volunteering, and saw this as not so much a hey, I'm going to work for the elderly, but it's helping others. And so I became involved with that, and worked in different positions, and eventually became the administrator, and then also ventured off into multi-level communities where we had independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, and really felt that that is the way to live your life at an older age where you do need some help, and can live in place at a community, senior community, and get your care needs met as you age. And so that was a very strong comfort level for me as well as for all the residents that we took care of. Came back home about 3 years ago.
So you were away for like close to 30 years, huh?
About exactly.
Wow.
Over 30 years.
Give you a lot of credit. I'm always very inquisitive, and I always ask a lot of questions. Are they pretty similar to how Hawaii care homes or nursing facilities
their
are?
CCRCs?
Yeah, like CCRCs or retirement.
I think in general, the strength of Hawaii's focus on kupuna is always there every day. And that's where we really respect kupuna. You look at the definition of kupuna, it's not just an elderly person, it's respect.
Right.
And so whether, we are patient watching an elderly person cross the street, or we hold the door open for them at a restaurant, and then when it comes to providing care, being caregivers, that, there is a passion among the caregivers to take care of the elderly person.
Yeah. When you mentioned that the aging or the Asian community had their own facility, is that correct?
Right.
But I always thought that the family took care of the older Asian community.
And back in the 80s, we're seeing that transition where
So that's when it started.
the two-income family, adult children, the sandwich generation, where they not only have their own family to raise as well as taking care of their elderly parent, was changing. And so, the community itself saw that the shift, and consequently, we do have more facilities like our senior communities here in Hawaii, on Oahu, that, have, as we say, younger seniors moving in, independent living. And as, they age and some have different chronic illnesses, can have their care needs met.
Okay. Well, now we know where the paradigm started.
Yes.
So Manoa Cottage, you have one cottage and 3 care homes?
So we're right on Kamehameha Avenue. We have 3 homes right next to each other.
Oh.
Started about 21 years ago by Sandra Shim with her own home converted into a care home. And back then, 20 years plus, it was kind of the start of the hundreds of care homes that we have today. And she had created 8 private rooms, the most dignified way to live as an elderly person, and moving into a care home in a private room, and have the care needs met with 24-hour caregivers, the food, and really comfort food that we enjoy day to day, and then activities, having activities, socialization throughout the day. So that's kind of how the care home is laid out. And over the last 20 years, now have 3 homes right next to each other. So Sandra Shim was able to expand. And then 4 years ago, we opened the skilled nursing facility with the focus on dementia and Alzheimer's.
Can I ask why you decided, because that's like the hardest patients to take care for besides bedbound patients, and that takes a real skill. And I'm glad you guys are doing that, not to say it's, but why can I ask why you decided to specialize in that? Did you see more of a need there?
One is that, we see the prevalence, and this goes back for a number of years, the prevalence of memory loss due to Alzheimer's, of course, number one, but also vascular dementia, people that have strokes where the brain doesn't work the way it used to, and memory loss is more significant. And so we saw that. And over the years, too, I've seen residents in nursing facilities and care homes with dementia, among others. And, it does take more of a specialized programming to provide the best care for someone with memory loss.
And do you provide this care at both facilities?
So the care home is more generalized, although we do have residents with some level of dementia. Dementia goes in different levels from what they initially diagnosed as mild cognitive impairment. But when we have residents or people with dementia, Alzheimer-like dementia, there's also behaviors. And that's where I think most people are more familiar with the behaviors that occur due to the Alzheimer's and how the brain functions.
Yeah, I actually heard that it takes up to 10 years for sometimes people to be diagnosed.
Indeed.
If they do get diagnosed.
Yeah.
Right. And interesting you brought up about the diagnosis part because the Center for Medicaid and Medicare, our federal government, starting in January 2017, has approved that Medicare will cover from assessment to care planning for people with Alzheimer's. And that's pretty significant because up till this point, that was not among the list of Medicare covered services.
Is that why they were not diagnosed or assessed?
That
You
is
think
a big factor.
But can't the general practitioner run a test, or do you have to go to a specialized, what we call it, what would you call it?
Like a pre-screening? Like,
Yeah,
like a cognitive.
Typically,
Mini-cog?
what we would recommend is, the primary care physician refer to a specialist who would be a neurologist.
neurologist. That's the word.
And that doesn't always happen,
Right.
unfortunately. But now with the CMS saying, hey, docs, we are covering the services for the assessment and care planning, it really be a good factor to provide better quality of care.
But who would do that? Would the general practitioner, or they have to refer it out to a neurologist? But then who would do the care planning side of it?
What we would like to see is, yes, primary care physicians that are skilled and, more aware of assessing, but very well could refer their patient to a geriatrician. And we have some great geriatricians in town, and then even to the specialist, the neurologist. So there's several options for the primary care doctor.
Well, I know earlier this year, wasn't there a couple of doctors from Minnesota come in that trained a bunch of doctors and nurse practitioners on how to diagnose?
Right. So we have resources that are coming in from the mainland. The University of Hawaii Manoa Campus Center for Aging has been instrumental in bringing in more education.
Right.
So it seems like the shift is now for more preventative instead of treatment.
Yeah, there are some preventative or good and healthy habits that folks could do, but the statistics show that there'll be more and more people with Alzheimer's. Currently we have about 26,000 in our state alone, and it's going to rise to.
'Cause that's just diagnosed, right?
Right, people with the Alzheimer-like or Alzheimer memory loss as well as behavior. And it's going to increase to 35,000 in just 8 years. So what we really hope to have for our community, for the kupuna with Alzheimer's, is a quality of life, an improvement of quality of life through that assessment and care planning process. We find that there's many folks out there unaware. And I'm not, I wouldn't blame the folks out there for not being aware, because it's really, how well those of us from, whether it's the educators or the community organizations, get out into the community and say, this is what you might be experiencing, and this is where you may want to go to your doctor and discuss some of the things going on. I've had residents come to us and family members come to us where they said, we didn't know there were resources available. And they were dealing with some very severe behaviors at the home setting. And I can understand where, and a wife taking care of her husband, they're both, say 89 years old, and very much in that generation, caring, the wife caring for her husband as he declined. And just recently had a retired medical doctor with the behavior of dementia and Alzheimer's. It affects anybody, irregardless of their education or their career, and had certain behaviors of, for example, taking a roll of toilet paper and every day tearing it up into little pieces. And the wife would clean it all up. Understood that even though she said, don't do that, he would continue to do it every day. But as a caregiver, she was able to continue meeting his needs, which would be food, a place to sleep, accommodating his social needs, but from the perspective of the caregiver, she's burned out. So we see folks like that and come to us and say, I know my health is being affected. Can you help us? And that's where, we need to be more out there, whether it's through the senior centers to have our speakers go out and explain that you're not alone, through the Alzheimer Association, where we have support groups and educational information to get the word out.
Yeah, and it still seems that it's that stigma. It's only happens behind closed doors, and I feel that if we come to terms that, we could all be affected. I think they're saying for baby boomers, it could be 1 in 7 now, that we all have that potential, and we all can do something about it, and we should talk about it. We should have that conversation, and that it's not a dirty little secret.
Right. And I think we also find that a little bit of generational differences too. We're the greatest generation, those that were born in the 1920s and 30s. They are now in their 80s and 90s years of age, and very much we'll take care of ourselves at the home setting. I mean, they've been through so much already in their lives, and let alone to tell others that, gee, my husband has Alzheimer's and I need to move him. That's not typically in the conversation, but we definitely see, spousal caregivers and even adult children who quit their jobs and, decide to take care of their mother or father at home. But it does affect the health of both.
Oh, yeah.
All parties
Big issue.
involved.
We're here at Calvin Ihara from Manoa Cottage and their skilled nursing facility in Kamaki, but we're talking more about, let's talk about, care homes. You guys have 3 care homes in Manoa, and then that specialized facility in Kamaki. The care homes, do people just, how do you find you online, or do they just call you up when they hear you on the radio or see you in the magazine? How do they find you guys?
They find us through various ways. But when we hear about care homes, we hear in this state quite often, care homes in different parts of the community, and the care home size varies from smaller, 4-bed care homes to as large as we are with 24 total rooms. But sometimes it's word of mouth, and location is a big factor because adult children want to be close enough to visit as often as they can.
A lot of your clients in Manoa or live in town?
Some live, had lived right in Manoa and like the Manoa environment, but others came from whether it's Mililani or Pearl City or Kamaki, some from the mainland.
Really?
And so it really varies. The adult children are on the internet seeking information, and that's where we're listed through our website, manoacottage.com. And then when we hear about care homes, it's what I look at is, first of all, what is a care home? And look at the Department of Health, who licenses care homes. It's a environment that promotes the dignity and choice of the resident in a home-like environment. And so that's really true, a home with care. And so we reflect that. And that's basically how folks come to us.
Yeah, so you encourage autonomy, wanting them to do for themselves and make their own choices.
As much as they can. And in our Manoa Cottage care home, we really have the community involvement. And that includes from music, groups that I knew growing up, with the Ebb Tides. And then we have members of the Lanakila Senior Center coming over. They have different cultural entertainment, from ukulele playing to Okinawan dance groups. We also have students involved through our intergenerational programs with students from Punahou School coming over. We have.
How do they participate? How do they interact with them?
So the students come over, and one way we create that interaction is we want to find out what their interests are. And we believe that students are learning, of course, and what best way is to ask the student what do they want to do and what are some of their passions. So we've had students who are musicians, and that's something they enjoy. So let's have music played.
They bring over their instrument.
bring over their instrument.
So you have 3 care homes in Manoa next door to each other. How many rooms or how many beds per unit?
So we have 8 private rooms in each house.
Or 8. So that's what,
And
24.
24, and
Wow.
we have one large dining area, so that's our social environment with the activities as well as meals, and it's a really comfortable setting where with the courtyard we have shared among the 3 homes, very Manoa-like.
That was smart.
And among the 3 of us, we've probably been to a bed and breakfast in at some point in time.
Resembles that.
It really resembles the courtyard of a bed and breakfast inn, and that's why we have residents who are sitting out there daily. It's covered, and so whether it's raining in Manoa, they still out there.
Is there a wraparound lanai? That's what I'm visioning in my head.
Yeah.
There is,
Oh, there is.
yeah, and there's also a koi pond.
Really?
So we have
Very
very
serene.
serene.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are some of the questions that you think are important for, let's say, because I know it's a lot of listeners are baby boomers. What are some of the questions that, a child seeking placement for their parent should be asking when they want to select a care home?
So the first question is really, not only the location, but what is the culture of the care home, meaning the activities. It's really, when you think about your loved one, the parent living at home, it's either the adult child or their spouse is the interaction.
Right.
And maybe a private caregiver coming in for part-time to help out. But the social interaction is pretty limited. So when you look at a care home, what are the activities going on? And so some of it, what I already described, we want to have a variety of activities, and that, from the social group activities to individual. We had a resident who, through our activities director, discovered that art was one of his passions. And,
He'd never been an artist before. Or was that something he had done in the past?
he was not an artist as a profession, but found that through our activity director that art was one of his passions. So she brought in different ways to do art, whether it was mosaic type art, to some watercolor painting. It flourished, and his level of awareness improved, his interaction with others, and basically awoke every morning ready to start or continue his art project.
Awesome.
Ex-
Very nice.
So what are the kind of questions? I mean, is there cost? Is cost a big factor to families? Is it mostly location?
Other questions besides the location and what are the social activities is really the care, and that's a big factor. A big important question is, what is the care like? And when you think about it, you're entrusting a care home or a group to provide 24-hour care as much as needed for the person, and want to know sometimes the staffing levels, how many staff are available at different times of the day. All care homes provide shared care,
So it's like 1 per 4, 1 per 6.
and it varies. And for any care home, it's really the needs of the resident that need to be met, because one person may have a bit more care needs than others. And so, what we do is we explain as we gather more information about, say, the person's mother. Can she get to the bathroom timely? Can she self eat by herself,
Self-care.
or does she need more assistance in eating? Does she like to socialize with others? So we'd encourage family members to ask the questions about what are the social activities. And then, of course, cost is a factor, and costs vary from one care home to another.
Does cost vary on how much care they're going to need as well?
And costs vary. Typically, a care home will charge based on care needs. And some care homes have semi-private rooms or shared rooms. Others are private.
And yours are all private?
And we're all private. The philosophy of Manoa Cottage is that, at that age of our residents, in their latter part of their lives, what is more dignified than having your own room?
Right.
So that's why we all have the private rooms.
And do you charge month to month or?
Yeah, we're month to month.
Month to month, okay.
That's the financial piece to living in our care home.
And you accept independent residents all the way up to assisted and skilled nursing, is that?
Right. So
Okay.
according to regulations, there's different levels of care provisions, and we're able to provide care under what they call the expanded care. So we do have residents that are with us for the rest of their life, whether it involves hospice at some point in time, but comfort care is typically what we can do and do.
Good. We're here with Calvin Ihara from Manoa Cottage. With your background, Calvin, and you being affiliated with Alzheimer's Association, we want to cover more topics on Alzheimer's and dementia. And I know your facility in Kamiki specializes in that. So we'll be right back after a short break. But if you have a family member, relative, somebody from work or church that has dementia, Alzheimer's, you want to tune in. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Generations Radio. If you have any questions or want to be part of our discussion, give us a call at 296-5467. That's 296-5467. This is Generations Radio on AM 690 The Answer.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
Moon Physical Therapy is here to help you back to recovery. Moon Physical Therapy is located on Ward Avenue across from Sports Authority. Physician prescribed for motor vehicle accidents, workman's comp, or that body pain that comes from rushing to play without warming up. Also event cardiopulmonary rehabilitation with our one-on-one patient care. Moon's Aquatherapy heated endless pool allows for low-impact exercise with less pain on land. We will give you the right exercises to get you back to health. Ask your doctor to prescribe Moon Physical Therapy. Moon Physical Therapy. We achieve results.
Aloha, this is Martha Clopin.
And Al Harrington. Choosing the right Medicare plan not only saves you money, it also helps you avoid headaches and heartaches down the road.
We want to remind everyone
to listen to a Medicare Moment with Martha, Sundays from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. as we help answer important questions on Medicare so you can stay healthy, wealthy, and wise all year long.
Call me at 543-2073, 543-2073.
I was an addict from the age of 13. I finally decided it was time for a change. I walked into the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center, and that got me ready for the real world. Now, I choose to be guided by Jesus Christ, and today, I'm building a powerful and promising future, free from drugs and alcohol.
Please shop at the Salvation Army family stores. With our discounted sales, your support through your purchase helps men live a clean, sober, and productive life.
Got Vegas on your mind? Get Vacations Hawaii on the line. Vacations Hawaii offers weekly 4- and 5-night Honolulu to Vegas packages, which include 3 meals daily from $6.99. Stay at Hawaii's favorite casinos: California, Fremont, Main Street Station, and Orleans Hotel. Vacations Hawaii will get you there in comfort on deluxe wide-body 767 planes with complimentary in-flight hot meal service. Vacations Hawaii's frequent flyer program gives you future travel discounts and credits. So if you're ready to win big, call Vacations Hawaii at 591-4777 or visit PointVacationsHawaii.com.
Today, more than ever, we local people are living longer than any other state in the Union, with more seniors, baby boomers, and caregivers. Generations Radio promotes the importance to be proactive as we all age. The radio team will focus on issues facing our seniors and their families, finding resources to navigate healthy aging along with financial, legal, and caregiving information. So join Percy Ihara from 5 until 6 each Saturday, right here on AM 690 The Answer. focusing on the issues facing our seniors and their families today. Here's our Generations Radio host, Percy Ihara.
So welcome back to Generations Radio. I'm Percy Ihara here with Melissa Mansfield from Altruist Medical with my co-host every week, and also with Calvin Ihara from Manoa Cottage, Kamiki. But you have Manoa Cottage in Manoa as well. But this half, Calvin, I know you're involved with the Alzheimer's Association. You have a lot of experience, and I've been to the facility, and we've talked about it before in the show, but it's very impressive. And have you been to
I have been, yes.
Melissa, to the facility in Kamiki?
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, tell us exactly where that location is, because I know people are going to get it. Where is that now?
So the Kamiki piece comes about because we're right behind the Kamiki High School gym. So students that went there, they know where the gym is. We're right behind. We're in the corner of Olokele Avenue and Wynome Avenue. The landmark really is two: the Safeway on Kapahulu and then Leonard's Bakery.
Yes.
And so
And it's nice because it's residential.
and we're in a residential area. We're a small community, small facility. It used to be a two-story apartment complex on the corner, converted into a nursing facility with 27 beds. So
That's not small. 27 is a lot of beds.
We are one of the smallest nursing
Really?
homes licensed by the Department of Health. And we're the only freestanding one that says in the skilled nursing level, focused on dementia and Alzheimer care.
Right. But what's interesting is that all your employees over there are specifically trained to deal with these kind of patients.
Right. You know, there's hundreds of caregivers in our state, but those that come to us to work really have a passion to provide care for residents with the level of dementia and Alzheimer's. And typically our residents are more in the middle to advanced stages. And so very compassionate caregivers, and through training that we provide, which is very specific to our programs on dementia care, they really thrive well as a caregiver, but also we see it in the comfort level of our residents.
So we always hear the terms dementia, memory loss, Alzheimer's. So what does that really mean? What is like the clinical definition?
Yeah, so dementia is really the catch-all related to the memory loss that occurs through a number of different diagnoses. And, you know, Alzheimer's is the one that's most prevalent.
So dementia is really the issue of loss of cognitive brain cells, I guess.
I always think it was like, is it like
Right.
the umbrella?
It's the umbrella
That's the catch-all.
general term for memory loss. And
I always thought it was Alzheimer's. But because you see the Alzheimer's Association, right?
Right.
But
But
they
then
should
there's
call it
little
Dementia
pieces.
Association.
And the association, the mission is really to help folks with dementia and related dementias
Right,
as well. But it's what we call the intellectual abilities get affected enough to interfere with daily life. And I can give you some examples
Yeah, give
of
us some
that.
examples.
Because sometimes you and I, we probably joke at some point in the day,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Every day.
I'm losing it. I can't remember.
I always say I have some timers.
Yeah, I can't remember where I put my car keys, or I
Walk into a room.
I walk into a room and what was I going to get? And I have to retrace my steps. We all do that day to day, but the more profound memory loss of that is noticed, especially at the home setting, where again the husband wife, the wife cooks breakfast for her husband and they sit down and eat, and an hour later the husband will ask his wife, "When are we going to have breakfast?"
Wow.
He cannot recall
Yeah.
that he already ate, and his the communication that occurs in the brain to the stomach, where we often say, "Hey, I'm hungry," is no longer there at that point in time.
So what level would you say that would be for a demented patient?
So it's more, an indicator
Okay.
of something going on, and that's where we encourage, to go see a doctor. And the doctor, through listening, not only from his patient, but also from the family caregivers, the wife or the husband or the adult children, who can fill in the gaps of what's going on at home, not wanting to take a bath anymore. That is an indicator of not wanting to bathe, personal hygiene, leaving the stove on repetitively. or wandering out the door at 2 a.m.
Yeah. I always tell my clients to write a diary of those occurrences to see how often it occurs. So when they do go to the doctor to have that conversation, everything is listed.
Right. Now, you asked me about the dementia and other. What are the other types of dementias? Vascular dementia is related to the strokes that someone may have, and at each stroke it affects the brain and then the thinking ability of that person.
And that's caused primarily from a stroke.
From a
heart
stroke,
attack.
yes. Yeah, because the blood flow gets affected to the brain.
Is that more
So it
severe?
limits the
than-
oxygen.
Right.
Is that more severe case of dementia, where there might be
And
mobility issues?
It varies, and that's why we see, even with Alzheimer-like dementia, not one person is alike, and it manifests in different ways. Where, as we sometimes say, someone is they're pleasant but confused. So maybe every 10 minutes may ask the same question. When is Melissa going to come home or come and visit me? And 10 minutes later ask the same question. It's not that they don't want to remember, they just don't remember.
Have the ability.
Yeah. And there's other dementias. Some are related to Parkinson's and some other less prevalent dementias. But the catch-all, as I mentioned earlier, is the word dementia. And so that's what we are geared for at Manoa Cottage, Kaimaki.
So you see a variety of the dementias in your facility?
We see the two most prevalent, the Alzheimer-like and then the vascular dementia.
The vascular, okay.
And, those sometimes with Parkinson's as well.
What's the average? I mean, you've only been home 3 years?
We're on our fourth year.
Fourth year. Is there an average stay you can say, or has somebody been there since day one and is still?
We have some residents that have been with us from the beginning, and primarily it's because they came in at an earlier stage of their disease. So, as Melissa mentioned, it can be a diagnosis of 10 years.
Right.
And unfortunately, there is no treatment or no cure. And so we're dealing with the day-to-day lives of someone with memory loss and behaviors. Let me talk a little bit about the behaviors where, it can be difficult of sometimes combativeness, argumentation, being argumentative, not recognizing time and place. Those kind of behaviors can be really difficult for the caregivers. And so when residents come to us, we, can identify those kind of behaviors. Sometimes it's related to the evening. Sundowning, where the sun goes down. It's related to the environment. And so we have the programming at Manoa Cottage, Kaimaki, to help divert some of the attention to good activities.
Share a little bit of those activities.
Sure. So we have the activity program throughout the day as a group. We really, on a daily basis, have music. And one of the music we do is with different instruments. And whether it's singing songs that the residents are familiar with, and could be from the Japanese Enka folk music to Hawaiian music. But we also brought in iPod shuffles.
Oh, nice.
For all residents. Have their own personal iPod shuffle. And we really give great thanks to the hospice class at Iolani School, which is one of our intergenerational programs, who introduced us to the program Music and Memory, and is a national program that's certified where facilities can be part of that using iPod shuffles. So we were able to acquire 27 iPod shuffles. Our playlist through iTunes is over 1,000 songs of various genres.
So wait, back up. So iPod shuffle is that small little gadget that can hold songs on there. You download songs on there, and they just have like a earbuds or something. They listen to it.
So we use foam headsets.
Okay.
It's easier to put on and off, and the music is concentrated, so it doesn't really matter what person's hearing loss may or may not be there, because the music is concentrated and it focuses. And so we would ask the resident or sometimes the family member, what kind of music did Dad like when he was growing up? And so we have, whether it's big band music, Frank Sinatra, the Japanese folk music, Okinawan music, so many genres that we have.
Oh, that's cool.
Church music.
I think when I visited the facility, I don't think you had it then.
No, we did not have that when you came over, Percy. So we introduced that, and it really provides that what we call the non-pharmacological approach to care, meaning before we go to the meds, as behavior escalates, let's try music.
Right.
And it works. Yeah. It may not work all the time because, as I mentioned, every day
your clients love them.
Can be a different day, and the music really is soothing. If you look at what we do day to day, we hop in the car, and either we have our own music that we put on, or we tune into certain radio station.
Yeah. And it's their genre.
And that's the genre.
Yeah.
I know you talked about Iolani. I know Iolani. We did an article on Iolani in the magazine. I think it was 2014 when he first started their 1 mile club class.
So 1 mile class,
and they were trying to find programs in their area within a mile of the school. There on Dade Street, right?
Right.
To focus on.
So it's what I call the Gerontology 101 class. That Iolani School started about 2014, and we are within that 1 mile. And so with contact with the instructors, introduced Manoa Cottage Kaimaki and the programming that we do, and students have come over, essentially walk that mile, a little bit less than a mile, and do intergenerational activities. And the activities vary. Again, sometimes the students are musicians. We recently had a piano player, so we brought out the keyboard, and he played music. Others just like to talk story. Teenagers do talk. They talk among each other. They talk story. So
they probably help them with the iPads.
And and then also, sometimes students, because they don't have grandparents around and they see a older person, not sure what to talk about. And, we also, through the instructors, talk about, or they have discussed what Alzheimer's and what dementia is all about. Well, one of the things that folks with dementia can recall is things from a long time ago. And I've illustrated that to students. And what did you eat for breakfast 3 days ago? Some will say, oh, I had this, and others, I don't remember. But if you ask them, when you were in first grade, who was your best friend, and who was your favorite teacher in the first grade? Is that recallable? Most likely.
Yeah, their long-term memory.
The long-term memory can be retrieved. Mm-hmm. And so one of the talking points in a teenager talking story to a 95-year-old is, well, let's ask, where did you grow up? And immediately the answer will come out. I grew up in Wailuku, Maui. So what was it like living in Wailuku? What do you remember, or do you recall what street you lived on? That will be recallable. What did your parents do? They worked in the plantation. A lot of stories come out. Mm-hmm. Did you know your grandparents? Oh yeah, my grandparents came from Japan. So with that, a talk story conversation can be half an hour.
Right, and cultures are being intertwined now.
Intertwined, and it's a learning experience. And that's what we really are encouraged with students coming over, that they are learning, and they're also learning about an illness that exists in the community.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, in 2014, they started with one class. I believe they were partnering with Project Donna back then. And I know last year they did hospice, I believe.
So another class started over 2 years ago, right after the 1 mile class started. The headmaster, Dr. Cantrell, brought in a class, an instructor, Bob Kane, to teach a class which he had taught in New York called hospice. And, when you think about it, even as adults, when we hear the word hospice, we kind of sometimes go, that's interesting for high school students teaching hospice.
Very interesting when I first heard about it.
And when I talked to Mr. Kane, I said, how does a class start? How do you start your conversation with the students? He said, my first question is, why'd you sign up for my class? And the responses, he said, vary from I'm curious, or I had a loss in my family. And when you think about a teenager, it could be a sibling, could be a parent, could be a grandparent. And they just wanted to know. And that's why I think students are really, they're curious. They want to learn. And so he teaches what it is, the hospice, which is comfort care towards end of life. But you also have to learn about life in general. And so we got involved because we have residents who are different levels of their illness, of dementia or Alzheimer's, and the students can learn about the resident's life and also over the course of the year visit and may also notice some changes occurring. There's other parts of the curriculum too in the class that they teach about how to provide care, personal care for someone that is towards end of life. But we also show that the music can be involved, comfort foods, again the recollection, the long-term memory of what kind of foods that they grew up enjoying. And so whether our Sunday morning breakfast consists of juk, the Chinese rice porridge, that is a comfort food. Our day-to-day plate lunch type food of beef stew, the Hawaiian way, is a comfort food. So students identify that when, yes, it's not going and getting a juice drink that the residents necessarily enjoy, but the comfort foods that
they grew up on.
A third class came about this year.
Yeah, 3 is amazing.
So we have 3 programs that are simultaneously occurring, and that one is a class related to robotics. And it's called Make It 101. And the instructor became aware of us through the other 2 classes, the 1 mile class and the hospice class, and our close proximity and our desire to have student involvement. And the robotic class decided that a class project would be a robotic based on a seal called Paro. And it was developed in Japan, where it's an interactive robotic seal for people with dementia. So the class is working on this. The first step was, how do we know what we should create if we don't know who this device would be available to? So they had to learn about dementia. They had to learn about Alzheimer's. So it was a learning experience. They came out and talked story with the residents. They did storyboards about their own life to share. And so we had this going on for the last several months, and we're anxiously awaiting to see their creation in a few months.
Wow. Yeah, they're really moving the needle when it comes to intergenerational programs over there. And I was really amazed that, first of all, the school allowing them to do a program like this, dealing with hospice, which opened my eyes because, and I heard kids were in tears quite a bit because dealing with death and dying, how do you explain it? How do they understand it as well? So I give you a lot of credit, Calvin. Now you're involved with a lot of different outside organizations outside of work besides the Alzheimer's Association, and you're on our board of HPGS, the Hawaii Pacific Gerontological Society as well, right?
Yes. So community involvement, I think it revolves around my life, and it kind of ties into what we do with Kapuna Care. So as a volunteer with the Boy Scout program for the Aloha Council, I'll be at one of our training sessions, encouraging our adult leaders to know more about how Scouts can be involved with our kupuna.
Well, so one, if you heard about the young boy from the Elks Club,
yes,
did the for his Eagle Scout, I believe, right?
Right. So Christian Tamashiro with Troop 616, sponsored by the Elks Lodge. His Eagle project was to help out the Lunalilo home, and created a brand new pavilion for the seniors there to enjoy the outdoors. And as a student of Kamehameha School, very much knew the history of our Hawaiian heritage and really wanted to provide to the residents at Lunalilo Home a nice outdoor environment. And so that is a great example of what scouts can do. At our care home, we have a grandson of one of our residents who's an 8th grader. And he said, hey, I want to do some volunteer work here, and I have my patrol, my fellow scouts that also want to help out. Is there anything I can do? And again, our desire to have students learn as they do things in our facility. Well, what would you like to do? And we have a pet therapy dog, Ehu. And I said, do you like dogs? And he looked at me and said, yeah, I do. We just lost our dog. And I said, well, we have Ehu, and he's seen Ehu when he visited his grandma. I said, well, Ehu does dog tricks. How about putting together a dog show? And so he said, really? So he had to figure out what could he do with Ehu, who does various tricks, and find out what she can do, and practice with Ehu. Would come in on the weekends and learn together what Ehu could do, and he put on a dog show.
Wow.
For the residents. Of course, what we saw was, can you imagine the most proudest grandma resident to see her grandson doing the morning activity with her fellow residents? Very proud. And so from the Boy Scouts, also involved in my hometown, Kamiki, with the Kamiki Business and Professional Association.
I forgot about that.
And so again, everyday life, we have people from the young ones, teenagers, to the kupuna. And it was really interesting, Percy and Melissa, last year at our annual Christmas parade that we sponsor.
Up Waialae Avenue.
On Waialae Avenue for the last...
get home early every day.
We are in our 70th year of this parade. And
really? Wow. Congratulations.
And thank you. And I was the MC for one of the tapings for Olelo of the parade. And I was out there early, and there was an elderly lady sitting by herself. And, talk story with her for a little bit. And then I was on the air for the next hour. And during the middle of the program, she sent over a lei she made, a crocheted lei, and I where did this come from? And so during a break, I stopped by and saw her, and she said, do you like the lei I sent over to you? And I think she just, during that evening, because she was alone, wanted somebody to talk story. And so that's where I find just day to day, helping others.
Interaction.
And have that interaction and know that she made my day, but I think I may have made her day as well.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, thank you for having that, the Tamashiro boy from 616, because we did a story in a magazine about that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But that story, a cute story about the dog at your place, that'd be a great story as well. So anyway, Calvin Ihara from Manoa Cottage, thank you very much. I appreciate all what you do and helping us out on the HPGS board. But we got to sign off pretty soon. I did want to mention we do have a Facebook page, so you can like us there. You can email us, percy@generations808.com, or you can call or text me 234-3117. We're always looking for stories and topics you want to hear about. Melissa, thank you very much. Real quick, we got 1 minute. How was your AGM Place event last week?
It was, what I liked about it is, even though it was a little bit smaller than the year before.
It was raining.
It was raining, and it was Halloween weekend, so we did take that in consideration. But we really got to know people one-on-one. And I have to tell you, we got a call that afternoon, and they wanted to start services that day.
Wow.
So we, and so far we've had 5 people call. So I think it was really good to get out in the community.
Well, Kahala Mall, a lot of seniors in Kamiki and Manoa, and along with Kahala area. So thank you very much. Calvin Ihara, we'll see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Percy.
So next week, you guys ever have a great weekend. Aloha and live well.
Thank you.